Hi guys, this is gonna be my rendition of Itachi. So I start off with already a bald cap on. Woo woo, look at me, shining, stunning, beautiful. Um, so I don't know if any of you care, but what I do to prep my skin, I use Fix It Plus on my face, just after moisturizer, to be clear. And I just kind of like work that in. And then I have this poreless primer from e.l.f. that I use on my nose because my pores on my nose, for whatever reason, hate me and hate foundation. You only need a little bit, which is the beauty of this product. And then I put it in my T-zone as well, which is on the side of my nose. That's where I get oily first. And whatever excess I have, I just use on my chin and like below my nose and above my lip. A little bit of chapstick as well, or lip mask, whatever you fancy. So I usually go in and stencil out my eyebrows first, but today I wanted to get them as thin as possible before I started drawing them on. So I went in with a little bit of bottom lash mascara and combed the top part of my eyebrows down and the bottom part of my eyebrows up. That way they come together in the middle. And then instead of brushing up completely like I usually would, I'm brushing kind of out toward my temple. That way they all just lie flat and neatly and nicely. And then I'm taking my matte lashes, gel liner on an angled brush, very tiny angled brush, and I'm going just on the perimeter of where the hairs are lying. Now I have tattooed eyebrows, so I go in later with concealer and I clean them up. But for right now, we're gonna just kind of carve them out. And you know me, I like to ombre the front just because it makes it look a little bit more gentler, I suppose. Some people tend to draw on their cosplay eyebrows, and like props to you if it looks good, but for me, it does not. So I stick with my 2016 methods. Again, taking a full coverage concealer, the back of my hand, with this small little petal brush, little U-shaped brush. I call it a petal brush. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but you know I'm rocking with it. See, teeny weeny. Just carving out the bottom and then the top, and we're gonna blend out and feather out that edge. I don't like to carve out the front of my eyebrows, but you do what works for you, whatever you like aesthetically. And I'm taking my Misha Cushion Foundation. Don't know what shade this is, but it matches me pretty well because I have yellow undertones in my skin, and it covers my redness pretty well, I'd say. Usually I only need one thin layer if I'm going out. Just taking that everywhere. It also is medium coverage, I'd say, because like you can see my mole coming through on my cheek. However, the redness from my acne is gone. And then I'm going in with that same concealer again, making it just a little bit more full coverage in this area. Going from my nose to my outer eye. I just really wanted to brighten that up. Now, the reason I also did this, even though we're going to go over it with shading, is just to give myself kind of a flatter canvas, a flatter looking canvas to work off of. Going with my Fenty, and this is what I call masculine contouring. Taking my petal brush again, getting all the excess concealer off. I dip it in the Fenty just to warm it up a bit. And then, boom. On the inside of the eyes, on either side of the nose, just hollow out that space. And then I wanted a slimmer nose, so I went on top of where I usually, or higher up, I suppose, than I usually would. And then this is the masculine part where I bring it all the way down, like that sucked in Bella Hadid model cheek. Under the chin, just chisel the jaw a little bit. I say chisel very liberally. And then around the nose, I use my Beauty Blender, just because I don't want any of that placement to get derailed or, moved around. With a brush, I feel like it blended out too much. So I was using the rounder part of the Beauty Blender right on the sides of the top of my nose. And then I live by this brush. I live, breathe, and die by this brush. I will link everything below. This brush, if you're going to take one thing away from my channel, it's going to be this brush. Just look at it. Look at it. This is real time. I'm not speeding it up. That's a beautiful blend. Keeps the product right in place. I tap, don't swipe. And then it helps create that shadow to hollow out the cheeks a little bit more. Now, I have chubbier cheeks, and I'm very aware of that. But if you're a slimmer guy, gal, this technique probably would work really well. I say don't swipe, but on my jaw, I was gonna say don't give it SHIT, but I don't want to curse, get demonetized possibly at some point. So, I no quiero. Let's leave it at that. And then swipe it down when you get to the back of the jaw, onto the neck. That's what makes the shadow. Just blending it out a little bit. Now, another reason I like that brush, too, is because Fenty is a little bit of a drier formula, and I have dry skin, and that thing just works it in like butter. I don't know what it does, but that brush is just magic. Now, I went on my temples. Kind of hollow them out. Now, the wig is going to cover them, so I didn't really go ham. And then I'm just taking a little bit of concealer, spot concealing my purging, my acne that I got going on right now. This brush, too, is also really good. Tap, don't swipe again, and blend out that product. And then I was going to go ahead and bake, so I'm getting rid of the creases under my eyes, and then going in with full coverage kimchi. Oh my god, what can I think of? Kimchi setting powder and Eyebrow and translucent. I mix the two together. Itachi is a paler character. I don't think I'll be using that Eyebrow one very often outside of cosplay, only with pale characters. And I'm going in with my eyeshadow palette, taking a bone mixed with like a taupe color, going all over my lids. I just want a neutral lid. Going with my contour palette and kind of building the base for the placement I'm going to have. So I'm hollowing out the inside of my nose again. Not inside of my nose. What am I saying? The inside of my eyes toward my nose. The outer part of my eye as well. And I'm not really focusing that much on my crease, only because I have hooded eyelids and I want my eyes to appear more elongated. And so by focusing on the inner and outer corner, it creates the blank space in the middle, which gives the illusion. Now I'm taking a flat, straight edge. I would suggest a flat, straight edge at least. I did not like using this. I have a palette, but it's my cosplay stuff. And I'm just using this to kind of cheat my way into a line to work off of. Then I'm taking that deeper shade going in right there. Now on my face I used all cool tones so far, just to be clear, because I want to cast the shadow first and then give it depth. Now, I know Itachi has those lines, and you could totally do that if you are interested. Use a palette, honestly. The straight edge should still help you out. But because I was doing this kind of my own way, I wanted to give it a little bit more depth insofar as casting a shadow. Now, you will notice that these start very obtuse, and they will end up very acute as far as the angle goes, just because I went over with contour palettes. So this is my Fenty contour, just creating a line again. But I went over it with my contours, and then I kept on going with concealer. And so I would say if you're like me and you need to kind of go back and forth, do this before you powder. For the love. it's probably so much easier to work. Then my elf, my deeper shades, yes, they are warm. I need the depth insofar as creating that shadow is already cast. I just need to create the depth now. Now this is when I wish I had my palette and I could just follow it continuously, like set it down, go over it with eyeshadow, set it down on my face, go over it with contour. But I didn't, and that's my regret, which is why these probably were not even at first and for a very long while. I cut out so much of me blending and undoing and redoing and undoing and redoing, so be grateful. 'Twas boring. And I am making sure I take that up to my inner corner, so it all is cohesive. And I am using this feathering motion to create a natural gradient without having to do as much work. I only took it under my eyes just because I need to work back and forth on different parts of my face so that I don't hyperfixate on something. And that's going to be the outline for my eyeliner later. Now I'm taking this concealer. I'm using it to clean up that line. I went right over my line that I had just drawn on, and I'm still so mad looking back at the footage. But I'm taking it up into kind of a cut, excuse me, kind of a cut crease. If you have hooded eyes, do it above your crease. See, I go right over all the work I just did. Live for that. I will say that this kimchi powder is very forgiving as far as creams going over it. It didn't pick up, it didn't get patchy, it didn't separate. It was actually quite nice. And then doing the same thing on the other side. Just evening them up. And then blending into my eyelid. Going back into here. Kind of just doing what we did already. Again, you could probably skip this if you didn't erase all the work you just did, like I did. Contouring and blending the top of the nose again, just so it looks longer. I guess my natural bone structure probably kept on having me naturally gravitate to that line, that linear line. And that's why I kept on going over it with my concealer. That's the only thing I can think of. I would say if you do this, definitely have like a marker on your face so it's even on both sides. And then you can just connect the dots pretty much. Now this is where it got a lot better for me. Now this is the first time I'm also doing any of this, so bear with me as I discover it. But this taupey brown elf crayon oh my god, eyebrow brush, or eyebrow stick, holy tamale. It has a gray undertone, which brought the depth back that I lost. And I definitely didn't want to go with black. That's a personal preference for me, just because I felt like it would look too harsh on me. And I enjoyed a challenge, so. I'm making that line a little bit thicker just so I can blend toward my nose, and it'll continue that color as the shadow. Oh my goodness. I can never talk in these videos. Taking that same feathering motion with a little bit of the contour on it. Contour colors that I was mixing. And you can see it start to kind of form. I keep blending out that bottom part only because I don't want it to have like a harsh stop. So just blending it in with my finger. And then feathering that part with a brush. Now this is a concealer brush that I was using, and then going back in with the eyeshadow pen. Oh my god, eyebrow pen. Just getting a nice, evenly applied line. And then I remembered I had this smudge brush, and she was amazing. If I ever did this at a convention, I would bring this brush 110%. It did exactly what I needed it to. And then doing the same thing on the other side, feathering in toward my nose. So whatever product is on there, and then blending out with that smudge brush. I don't know if it would be called the pencil brush, smudge brush. I used it for smudge, and therefore it is a smudge brush. I believe it's a e.l.f. brush. I've had it for eons, so the brand is worn off. So it's either e.l.f. or Wet n Wild, because that's all I could afford in middle and high school. Redefining that line, blending it in a little bit, redefining the line, not getting it straight, and then curving off under my cheekbone because my bone just pulled it that way. I would say go in with a light hand if you're going to attempt this, and just trace across your skin. Don't try to draw on. And then, okay, so on the one on the left is what I was using on my face. The one on the right is a brightening concealer. That's the one that we're going to go for, because that's when it's going to make the shadow pop, the contrast. Going in on my concealer brush, making sure I'm not going over the line this time. It was making me so frustrated too. I was like, why is this just not working out? And I kept doing the same thing, duh. Now, me personally, I didn't really want these lines to go super past my nose, only because I felt like that was going to bring my face down, drag it down a little bit, so I concealed on the bottom, blended it in. Of those lines. Concealed on the bottom of the lines, blended it in. Cleaning it up. I don't really care if they're concave toward my nose. That's a personal, I don't care thing. Like I said though, if you are a perfectionist, kind of similar to me, use a palette or a straight edge of some sort. Like if I was at a con and didn't have my palette, I would use a credit card. Then blending that concealer in. Going in with the powder now, just to marry all those colors together and mattify them. I'm getting mad again because I went right over that line. At least on that side I didn't. Blending it in. Oh, maybe I didn't. Maybe I went over the line on purpose. I think they were uneven. I can't tell because I'm not totally on center. And then I'm taking whatever left over on my eyebrow brush with that gel liner and just defining that line right where the concealer and the shadow both end. And I had to dip in again, so I brushed off excess on my hand. I went in very lightly, like I say. I did not want a straight black line. That's a personal thing. I don't know. Yeah, I've said it before. I do what I think the character would look like in real life. I'm not trying to cosplay the exact character as a two-dimensional being. I always try to incorporate either my style or modern trends or, you know, what say you? Going in with a darker brown, just redefining my outer corner. This is very similar to painting insofar as your darkest darks, that's what you want to carry throughout the composition. So my nose brought everything to be darker, which made my shadows that I already had look lighter. So I had to go in and redefine those a little bit more, give them a little bit more oomph, if you will. And then I'm using the thick end of my dual-ended eyeliner from Chic Glam to do all the work of putting on a thick, and I do a straight eyeliner look, only because Itachi has very elongated eyes. And then I'm using the thin to fill in all the little gaps, as well as to correct any mistakes on the outer edge and extend it a little bit, and then draw down. And I position myself at an angle where the pen naturally wants to follow the contour of my eye. I'm not fighting my anatomy. Filling in the gaps. And pulling that in. Now the reason I left a little bit of blank space there was A, to get the proper shape on the outline, and then B, I'll fill it in later. Not straight black, only because I don't particularly like that on me. Wasn't the vibe I was going for. But here I am drawing in with the thin end of my eyeliner, a eyelash, and then another bottom eyelash. Because Mr. Itachi, he's got a full set of lashes. Gets them done every 2 weeks, I'm sure of it. And then I take this little like purple, this warm tone. It's like a warm and cool tone purple at the same time. And then I popped it in there. And this brush is stained pink. I don't believe there was any pink product on there, but I still brought it down on those lines. I'm taking these eyelashes, did them off camera. I have a video if you guys are interested in learning how I do my eyelashes as someone who struggles to do eyelashes. Just filling in my inner corners, top and bottom, and then I got a little smudge there, and I just ended up leaving it. I did not care. Out of sight, out of mind. You can hardly see it. Take this fan brush, and then I dipped into a little bit of the gel liner, swiped it back and forth, kind of buffed out the harshness of just straight black eyeliner. Then went in with a dark brown eyeshadow then on a itty bitty little brush. Usually use this brush for my inner corner. And I just very lightly, you can see me barely touching my face when I start going down my cheek, just to make sure that the gradient and the line work that we just didn't get lost. I felt like with the eyeliner and eyelashes, it got lost a little bit, so I had to bring some of that darker tone back in. Put my wig on, then my highlight. I just did on my nose, I didn't do on my cheek. That's a personal preference. Got rid of my bake. You can literally see the two different skin tones I am. And then a little bit of this like very warm, not red lipstick, and smudged it out with my finger. Very attractively, might I add. That's it. Thank you guys. These are final products. Please follow me on my Instagram, Kate_escapism. Have a good one. Goodbye.